us live on the Blog to Watch Week Live. We've just heard that Ariel's not joining us. He's just literally just sent us a picture and a message that says, "Sorry, boys, I'm in Thailand." Okay, as you do. Did anybody know Ariel was in Thailand? Didn't seem to flag this up this week to anybody that I'm aware of. Do we know what he's doing in Thailand? Is it watch related, or has he just decided to go to Thailand
related,
as one does? Do we know what brand? Are we allowed to say?
I think it's Louis Vuitton, I think, but who knows?
Louis Vuitton celebrating. Celebrating the success of Formula One's first event.
Can we just briefly talk about the branding?
I didn't really see it, so yes, you can.
Okay, so we've all seen it's a F1 clock for the official timekeeping clock. Yep. I didn't think there was anything less appropriate than a white gold fluted bezel or a gold fluted bezel to signify the start of Formula One. But honestly, the Datejust style face was more legible than what is effectively a very busy face, and nothing says motorsports more than a dive bezel. So there's that.
Oh yeah.
And then on top of that. I thought the tag branding was good around the track. Black, white letters, red and green tag logo, exactly what you think. But then, David, did you watch the race? What was that going on with that like purple and gold, like blurry, fire-looking Louis Vuitton branding that was everywhere?
I don't know. Oh, it's fast. It looks fast. I think they just wanted to create the illusion of fastness. Yes.
It's emblematic of how quickly they're burning through money sponsoring the.
Yes, it turns out the logo is going faster than virtually all of the rookies that started the F1.
Looks like it.
I think only one of them finished. Is that right?
Of all the newbies,
Antonelli, I believe, finished. Everyone else, including the super senior Fernando Alonso, crashed.
Yes, Ariel's now photobombing the chat with pictures of him in Thailand. There's not a lot of work going on in Thailand this morning. I don't care what watch brand he's there for, LVMH or not. Good. All right. Well, let's start our show without Ariel. I don't know what we're going to do. Ariel was going to bring the heat this morning, so Darren Ripley was need to bring the heat.
Let me get out and come back in to change my mic settings because Riverside in all its wisdom does not allow you to do that.
Joy. So while David's away, we'll talk about him. What have we got to say about David?
I mean, just can you blame Ariel for not tuning in? Look at that gorgeous vista. My God. I mean, Rick, that's more sunshine than Scotland's had this century.
He's literally had more sunshine in 2 photographs on WhatsApp than we've had not quite all century. Give us some credit. It is still daylight here. We're not actually in an Arctic winter, but it's pretty close. It's a close run thing.
Okay, well then it's a fair statement to say that I had more sunshine going to pick up new trash bags today at the store than you probably had this in the 2025 calendar year.
That's almost certainly the case. But you've had more gun crime. So, horses for courses. What are you going to say?
There is probably an active shooting happening in my house right now. And we're just like, it's like ants, Okay.
It turns out that wall is actually, what's it they call it? Not a safe room. It's safe room. Panic room. Turns out that wall is in fact your microphone. The only thing you've got in your panic room is that wall and a microphone to speak to the rest of the world.
Well, it's nice because I can just keep my eyes ahead of me and know that I'm not going to be hit by any errant bullets from behind.
That's right.
All my focus is straightforward.
And David's wondering what he's just tuned back into. He was literally gone for 30 seconds. Right, let's get the show on the road for real. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Greetings and welcome to this week's Blog to Watch Weekly. If you've been so stupid as not to tune into the live show at 7:30 on a Tuesday morning on the Blog to Watch Weekly live channel, then you have already missed why Ripley has moved into a panic room with his microphone and the rookies from Formula One who didn't make it this weekend. There's some cabal going on there. There's a connection. We're not quite sure what it is, but you need to tune into the YouTube show to find out. We should actually just briefly touch on the standings, the scores and the doors, as we say in this country. I don't know if that phrase travels transatlantically or Eastern European lane. But the scores on the doors for F1, Richard Mille are on 27 points with McLaren. Tag are on 18 points.
Well, hold on. Before we go into this, is Richard Mille's an aggregate of Ferrari and McLaren's points?
No. Because
we just
Richard Mille Ferrari is on 5 points. Richard Mille McLaren.
Why don't we have a watch constructors championship where where each watch manufacturer gets points, and we can also go by drivers. So I guess if one of them has a personal endorsement, we can go that way. But how can we have two different Richard Milles competing?
Well, here's the choice. It's either you have two different Richard Milles competing as two different teams, or you add the totals together and divide by 2 because they've got twice as many opportunities to win points.
I like that because you can't have McLaren and Ferrari. That's
okay.
Good.
So let's do that. So Richard Mille, if I take out my 1980s calculator, Richard Mille scored 27 points from McLaren and 5 points from Ferrari. So if you divide that by 2, they're on 16 points, which takes them from first place all the way down to third. So IWC are currently top with 27.
Oh, this is so allegorical of the race. Ferrari could have had it, and then they absolutely did something.
So IWC are top with 27. Tag are second on 18. Then with our complicated formula, Richard Mille are third on 16. Then Girard Perregaux on 8. And Williams and Sauber, who are looking for watch sponsors, actually, Williams are on 10 points. So if you're a watch sponsor that wants to get in at the level, then Williams and Sauber are available. Everybody else is on 0.
Oh, so, Bremont, look what you gave up.
Yeah, I know. Just when they started that again, an allegory. Just when they started to become successful, they just went in a completely different direction. And
Terra Nova, like when the car catches fire on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, was it a good race? I didn't watch it. Was it worthwhile, or was it just meow, meow?
It was raining, and like half those guys have never driven like an F1 car in a real race before. Yeah, it was kind of entertaining.
You see, I always figure that's why, historically, disproportionately, Scotland has done well, because we get to experience. We have plenty of open roads where you can literally bomb it along if you really choose, because there's nobody there. That's why all these Top Gear programs, they'll film in a certain area of Scotland because they know no one's interrupting them. But you can also have every different road condition within the space of about an hour. So you could have rain, you could have snow, you could have sunshine, you can have half wet track, you can have slightly less
sunshine.
We're not having sunshine. You don't need to worry about heat. You need to worry about things overheating in Scotland. That is certainly true. Anyway, right. Well, without Ariel, let us continue. There's been some breaking news this morning. There's been actually a couple of this. In fact, actually, the man who brought LVMH Group into the world of Formula One has now moved on. So let's just find this. This is from Watch Pro. Frédéric Arnault has moved from running LVMH's watch business onto something I've never heard of, but no doubt those that buy handbags and fancy roll-down jumpers know all about. But he's moved to Loro Piana. Is that how you pronounce it? Have you ever heard of Loro Piana, gents?
No.
I'll take that as a no.
I did not. Bless you.
No. Thank you.
How does it? How do you? Scroll down a little bit, because this is just a useless picture.
Yeah.
Only one of those two gentlemen looks happy in it too. But
yeah, if you were a boy, if you were the boy just looking for love. Excuse me, I'm gonna have a sneezing fit here.
I think it's tough. We just recently heard about Richemont also discontinuing its overarching watch department, right? So I think I see some big changes here. I think maybe I'm not speaking for Louis Vuitton here. I'm meaning the group, but Richemont maybe. I think they might be realizing the fact that it's not wise to have an overlord, or maybe a couple of them, who rule over all the brands and look at all their propose novelties and developments and stuff and say, you can do this, you cannot do that, you absolutely cannot do this. What we've seen over the last 10 years or maybe more, but especially the last 7, 8, I don't know, probably that much, from Richemont, for example, is a lot of competing brands in the same price point or roughly the same price point producing a bunch of mediocre watches. And the sensation that I got and my impression was that, it was just Richemont telling all these brands, you cannot do this because if you do this great watch, it's very, well designed, it's good proportions, it's a good movement, it's a good value proposition, then you cannibalize or you threaten the other big brand within the group. So you cannot do this. You can do a Pilot watch for $5,000 because then what would this and that brand do? IWC do, right? Or you cannot do whatever, like a good looking watch for like $3,000 with a cost movement that's in house because then what would Cartier do and stuff like that. So it's been like that. And what they didn't realize maybe, or they are realizing now, is that by failing to compete with one another within these large groups, they failed to compete with those who were outside the groups and did not care one bit about what's going on within Richemont, right? We've seen the rise of a bunch of amazing watches, amazing products at virtually every price point between $500 and $10,000. And these big groups have largely failed to remain competitive and rise with all the newcomers and all the few big brands who have managed to crack the code. That's my impression. So maybe that's why guys are moving away from these positions of power that used to rule over brands.
Would you not be a bit annoyed if you're a Frederic Arnault and you've just gone to Formula One, you've persuaded your dad to invest in it, and it's great, I'm going to get to go to all these F1 events as the man, as the man that pours $100 million or whatever it is a year into F1, and now suddenly he's working for a company that has no involvement whatsoever with F1 and doesn't get to go to the to the races for free. He's no longer a member of the Paddock Club because he's just been moved to making really expensive polo
I think
shirts.
he's still a member of the Paddock Club.
You know, so
I think yes, Rick. Probably the Arnauds will forever be. I don't.
Don't think they've taken his pass. It's not like an episode of Succession. He's had his rights through. Because I also read this week, I think Miss Tweed is saying that the top man himself is now going to change the rules of LVMH Group so that he can be CEO till he's 85 or something like that. Like there's a rule within the constitution of the company that you have to retire at 80. I think he's 79 or something. It's, the ages are irrelevant, but there is this kind of rumor going around that he's about to, in some sort of North Korean type way, extend his own tenure by changing it. A bit like what Putin did. He said he could just be president forever. So yeah, I don't think that the boys and girls elsewhere in the family are going to get a chance to take the reins any time soon by the sounds of it. But David, as you indicated, there's been some other movement elsewhere, and Jean-Marc Pontrot, is it, from Panerai, has announced on LinkedIn that he is leaving Panerai. Indeed, has left. I think he's gone.
Also leaving Richemont.
Leave it. There you go. It's bittersweet, apparently. Any leaving quote that starts with quoting Confucius as your opening line, I think that tells a story in itself. You've become so reflecting on your future that Confucius says. Did Confucius really say this? I would like to check the veracity of the statement. If you have a job that you love, you would not have to work.
That was Confucius.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like something Confucius was said, but I'm no Confucius expert. Confucius says me no expert, so maybe it was. But he's been there for 25 years. I'm more interested. It's a bittersweet moment as I say goodbye to 841 committed Panerai members. Now, as a Panerai owner,
specific number.
A very specific number.
No. It's not just committed Panerai members. It's also supportive trade partners, collaborative suppliers, loyal customers, inspiring Paneristi, enthusiast media communities from Switzerland, Italy, and all the countries where we operate. So that sounds to be a collective count for all of the previously mentioned
well, this is kind of what I'm saying. Is he saying that there's only 841 Panerai owners in the world? In which case, I feel blessed. Or is he saying there's 841 people that work for Panerai? In which case I'm saying, what the blazes are 841 people doing working for Panerai? They produce like, I mean, watch it. David, have you got that report from the other day that indicates just how many watches each brand produces? How many
It takes
watches
that
does
many
Panerai
people to
produce?
suppress design, Rick. It really takes a lot.
It's like Squid Game. There's 41 watchmakers and 800 people waiting to beat them down with bats if they dare come up with an original idea.
Panerai, let's see.
Well, so it says
They
loyal
made-
customers. They might have a lot of
they-
customers. Maybe
They're
few
not very loyal.
I don't think they made the top 50 brand list.
They didn't even make the top 50 brand.
I
And so
don't think they did.
what? So like, how many watches do you think Panerai make a year?
Hold on.
5,000? 10,000?
They made 12 last year.
12 watches.
Yeah. I'm just kidding. They could have. From all
How
we
many
know,
watch-
from all we know.
And what is the difference in how many watches they made and how many watches they sold? Because I think that's the key number that someone really needs to do
Yeah.
research. So to
You and I
actual
could
customers.
make all the watches in the world, but we couldn't sell any of them. So
This is
let's
true.
see.
This is true.
they were
This is
not
true.
on the top
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 50.
50.
So yeah, so it's possible they actually
MBNF
made.
is, Oris is, Dior is. Okay, that's a different thing.
So how many watches
Um,
did Oris sell or make last year according to the list?
40,000.
So for Oris
That's
to
a
be
far
there,
cry
for
from Panerai. Let's be
Yeah.
honest.
841 people work for Panerai.
It's
That's
not. You're
mad.
misunderstanding. I don't think that's within. That's
I
with
don't-
all the suppliers and everyone else. Don't get hung up on that
No,
number.
it's just-
it's a random
no way-
number.
Well, it's either, but that's what I'm saying. It's either, well, okay, yes, it is a random number, but it's either saying 841 committed Panerai members, e.g., people that work for Panerai, or he's saying 841 is the total number of Panerai members, supportive partners, collaborative partners, loyal customers, inspiring Paneristas,
Yes,
and
that's it.
enthusiast
That is
media
exactly
communities.
it. Exactly. Okay. Inspiring Paneristi. Who is inspiring? You buy a Panerai, you are a Paneristi, and then you go kill some exotic animal and turn it into a strap. That is how you. There's no inspiring Paneristi. That is zero.
Okay.
Loyal customers. That's subjective.
Well,
So I think this 841 probably speaks to the Panerai team, their trade partners, collaborative suppliers, in the Richemont group. And then I think these other ones and enthusiast media communities, I don't know, have they been very kind to us, recently?
Do you think that What's His Chops is considered on this list, who we've had on the show, and who I have immediately forgotten what his handle is on Instagram? The man that debunks all the Panerai rumors. Do you think he counts as a big as a big minus? What's his handle again on Instagram?
It's Periscope.
Periscope, of course. How could I forget Periscope? Do you think he's on that? Do you think he's having a party this morning? We should really have got him on. Do you think Periscope is enjoying this? I like the idea that 841 committed Panerai members is so many folk that work for Panerai, so many trade partners, and then everybody else is a zero. Loyal customers, zero. Inspiring Paneristas, zero. Enthusiast media communities, zero. And it's just
there's certainly some of those. Don't worry.
Right. So, and as part of this, the group is also reorganizing. So Richemont is apparently they have got rid of it's a bit like Ford back in the day when they had their, what did they call it? When they owned Jaguar and Land Rover, Ford Luxury. There was like an overarching brand that Ford had when they bought all of these previous companies. But Richemont had an overall watch division, which was run by a chap called Emmanuel Perrin. I don't know much about him, but he's now the guy running Panerai, apparently. So, yeah, he's gone from effectively in charge of all the watch brands at Richemont to running.
Do you mean General Motors?
Panerai. No, it was called. Oh, we need to Google it now. This is disappointing. Ford brand name when they owned Jaguar.
So
Premier Automotive. It was called Premier Automotive Group. Maybe that was just in this country.
Geez.
When they owned like Volvo and did they own Volvo? Yeah, they owned Volvo, Jaguar, Land Rover, Bentley. Did they own Bentley before they sold it to?
All right,
BMW?
we're going off track.
Anyway, Anyway, off track. They would have it.
So the gentleman who's now going to be at the helm of Panerai went from being able to have a say over many different types of watches, and is now going to be at a brand who arguably has the most concise. Yeah, no, it's 2 watches, Rick. You have with or without a crown protector bridge, Radiomir or Luminor.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's what a remarkable difference. It's sort of like, well, I think it'll be a healthy shift. I mean, as much as I joke about Panerai, I'm a big fan of the brand. I want a Luminor. I just not at the price they're currently charging, but
yep. I mean, if you're only going to have one watch, I recommend it because it takes you that long to afford it for what it is. So as a one watch collection, Panerai, great.
Well, you need to, because when you send it in for service, you're going to need something.
For 6 months. Yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
Let's visit the Panerai website and see the legacy of.
There's a charge. Yeah, I like that idea. Panerai.
So let's see what happens.
Is Panerai one of those brands that you can never spell? I mean, I own one. I literally see its name every single day, and I still struggle. It's like Tag Heuer. Like, what's with that? Right. Let's go. Panerai website.
Panerai is one of the easier ones. How do you spell
it? I don't know, just stuff up. What can I say? Right, let's go to the website. We're nearly there.
So right
Panerai
now,
website. What should we have a challenge?
Just click on watches.
Just click on watches. Any watches will do. There we go. We have a cookie policy.
Just go to like watches on the top left.
Yeah, we're there.
Start scrolling. Everything here now looks like it did 15 years ago. Look at it.
Yeah.
Exactly the same. Exactly the same. Still the same. Still the same.
All that's happening is the waterproof rating's going down. I do like. See, the thing is, look at this. I do like that. That's a nice looking watch. The full steel. Yeah.
Is this still 30-meter water resistant?
Yeah, probably. It's £7,000, so it's got to be only 50 meters water resistant, presumably, because that seems
not supposed to happen. Wait. How are you correlating price with water resistance?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You can buy a $200 Citizen with 400 gazillion meter water resistance.
Yeah, not from Panerai. You can't. You're paying like $1,000 a foot or something.
No, it's like it's the Dewey. They just refuse to make that even acceptable in the water resistance realm, because then there would be no point to have the Luminor. So they need to keep it there. But
it's not true.
30 meters is like.
Oh, we'd love your feedback.
Got probably 30 meters.
We'd love your feedback. Okay. How likely are you to recommend Panerai to a friend? Well, I would recommend them. What was the reason for your rating?
Equation of time, is that an option?
Other, please specify other. Recording a podcast.
Trying to
that was
funny.
the reason. What was the main purpose for your visit today?
To gloat.
Schadenfreude. Okay, I can't spell Schadenfreude, but to gloat will do. To gloat's fine. Anything you'd like to share about your experience? Do you already own a Panerai? Yes, I do. Anything you'd like to share? How do you spell Pontro?
Well, okay.
Give Pontro his job. I was going to say, give Pontro his job back. Pontro. I don't know how you spell Pontro. We'll go with that. His job back.
I'm such a fan, I can't even spell his name. That's there
we go. Submit. Thankfully, thank you for providing feedback. There we go.
What I found is that the technical specification says that the Luminor Duo is 30-meter water resistant, but if you look at this 3D image that you can rotate or move around, it says 50 on the case back.
Yeah, so they don't even trust their own rating.
No, just don't go anywhere near water with it. But it's oh my god.
David says, I just want this over.
they had the Brooklyn Bridge scandal watch. They had a bunch of other crazy scandals using World War II footage from a site you're not supposed to use footage from for marketing purposes. Even Volkswagen knows this, Porsche knows this, Hugo Boss knows this, but Panerai, whatever. So yeah, there were all of these mistakes, but I think Luminor Duo is by far the biggest disgrace in terms of what Panerai is or was, and this is basically the the materialization of them abandoning everything that's ever been sacred to Panaristi. A slim watch that looks exactly the same that every other watch, but with the stupid crown guard, but with no wood. How can you put this? Would be Porsche designing a 911 without an engine in the rear, fully electric, front-wheel drive. And then they would be like, oh, well, but it looks like a 911. People would be like, yeah, but the whole point was that the engine is in the back.
It's kind of like the crown protectors, like those like the big hood scoops that are stick-on that you get at like the auto parts store, where it's clearly not doing a thing for water resist. How do you only get 30 meters with this? Like if you just go pick up a random Seiko dress watch, like choose the Presage of your choice, it has like 100 meters, totally fair.
Yeah.
What have you done to only get 30 with this? Like what?
I think we may have broken their website. There must be two people on us and somebody else because the website stopped working. Either that or this Luminor Marina's made of that stuff that Moser make their watches out of, where you can't. Oh, here it comes! It's eventually loading.
Would it be hilarious if they made a watch without lume and the night view would be just a dark picture? Just like, this is what you will see in the dark, nothing.
Ripley. Oh, there is a slide. Look at this. We can switch on the lume on the.
Exactly.
It does actually get dark. There you go.
Yeah, you see. So I think it's maybe it would have been a hilarious explanation for them to say, look, the crown is so safe. It's safe. It's rated to 200 meters. It leaks everywhere else. The Luminor do it. Case bag, bezel, crystal. It's just the watch is leaking inside out. It's just basically a fish tank. But the crown,
the crown now,
with a registered TM, whatever that means for a crown guard, because it's not a trademark, isn't it? It's a design. So it's either patented. Or why would you put registered trade? I'm sure there's a bunch of Panaristi forum posts about this, so I'm, which I'm totally oblivious to.
Come on, Panaristi, bring it on.
Extensively discussed in 2004 when Panerai was at its peak, when people wanted to understand the marketing machine. But now nobody cares anymore.
Okay, there's a job going at Panerai. Let's assume that the guy's just been given it's really not his cup of tea. I have to say, from the pictures of him suited and booted, he doesn't exactly inspire Panerai. I think he looks more like a GLC man than a Panerai guy. But how would you go about rescuing a brand like Panerai? What would you do? You've got the job, David. What's your first move? Resign.
No, just no bonus. No, I just want a hefty monthly payment. It should not be like performance-driven bonuses, because
that's the first thing is I'm signing a contract that's not got any performance bonuses in it.
No performance bonuses. No. It's a million billion every month. With a laptop and a phone. All right. Or whatever. There's just one. What I would do is ask the question, do I go back? Do I look back or do I look forward? If I look back, I would just bulldoze the whole brand and just bring out literally two watches, a base Luminor and the Radiomir, and I would just make that watch for the rest of eternity, do a Rolex on it, and 5 years later, maybe change one thing. And I would be like, okay, this is it. We are now...
The water resistance from 30 meters to 35 meters.
Exactly. Well, whatever you want to do, it would be just two watches, and we would be like, okay, this is authentic Panerai. I would ask Periscope to give his blessing and everything else. It would be baptized by Periscope. 2 watches by Panerai that are actually decent watches. Or I would pull a Bell & Ross on it. Because if you look at what they've done,
Panerai producing square watches.
They're close. I mean, it's a cushion case. I mean, we're almost there. Just squish it a little bit. But what I did, I was just reviewing this Bell & Ross Astro the other day, and that was kind of cool, or Astro, and what they did is they ended up creating all these funky, cool designs with the navigator design or the full lume or whatever. So you can get really playful with Bell & Ross. And Bell & Ross was, in a way, a very much a Panerai equivalent, in the sense that everybody recognized the Bell & Ross design. Everyone had the same freaking BR03, again, 20 years ago, like Panerai did. And then it snowballed from there. And where Panerai failed, and I think Bell & Ross succeeded, was that Bell & Ross could progress into a state in which they can get away with not taking themselves too seriously. Panerai really tried to, historically and all kinds of other ways, in fabricated ways sometime, justify their modern designs and whatever they are doing today. Whereas Bell & Ross looks at it and it says like, well, it looks like a wonky gauge from a plane, but of course it's useless, but isn't it cool? And then you're like, well, I guess it's cool. And it's not 12,000, it's 4, like the Astra is like 4,400 or something like that. And it's a very well made watch. It's a beautifully made watch, really cool concept. Even if it didn't have the Bell & Ross design, which I actually like, but whatever, it would still be a cool watch for 4 grand. So they managed to step beyond the shadow of themselves and what they used to be, and just be a more playful one. So I would either take Panerai in a playful way, or dress it up like that, or I would take it back to its roots and just leave it at that. That's what I would do.
In the chat, in view images saying the inside of it looks like a 20-year-old unfinished Seiko. Ripley, what direction would you take Panerai in? Square?
Maybe square. I think David kind of has it spot on. I would sort of combine the two ideas. Like, the purists want the purists. And so I would basically distill everything that they have down into some very concise iterations of it, and, make the standard like two-handed Luminor an approachable model. I would stop with these super high-end ridiculous pieces with such frequency. Have a couple of them here and there as a halo piece, but it's similar to Bell & Ross. They have a very distinct case silhouette, a very kind of narrow design language, but they just don't iterate upon it in the same way that Bell & Ross does. And so I would take that page out of Bell & Ross's book, make more playful, lighthearted designs. Don't take ourselves too seriously, because if Panerai goes super serious, we go back to a very unglamorous part of World War II for them, and that's like not the story you want to be preaching. So have it, start creating a new narrative that doesn't get you back into that problematic situation, and give you new messages to spout. Use the same iconic design of the Luminor. Maybe you could repurpose the crown guard bridge for some other purpose, but the quote unquote innovation or whimsy isn't like, I don't want a little electroluminescent light. I want something like what Bell & Ross is doing, where it's a little planetarium display thing, or some crazy colors, or a very, left field art concept piece at $4,000 or $5,000. And I think that's the big thing. A lot of people are willing to overlook certain shortcomings when it's a mid 4-figure piece, but once you're talking like a 5-figure piece or a deep 5-figure piece, it's a categorically different purchase, and people have other expectations.
David, you've just sent us a wee link in the chat for this. I did not expect we'd be spending this much time on Panerai. This is as much time as anyone's spent on Panerai.
What do you mean, Rick? You love Panerai.
I do. This is the problem.
RL's out, and we're just going to go talk about Panerai. We didn't publish anything on Panerai. We're just going to talk about Panerai.
Exactly. We're just going to talk it. This watch, this 45mm monster, which is 12.5 grand, should be 4. This should be like an entry level Panerai.
Yeah. What on earth is 12K on this?
It's the Bernuto, whatever the steel. They had to PVD it, and then Italian hands had to weather it.
I'm not buying
by hand. Had to roll it on their thighs to weather the. No, that's Cuban cigars, isn't it? It's weird. It's weird. But the thing is, this is the problem. I love these watches. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it's the only one I own, and if you wear something long enough, you go, I quite like that. But it's weird. I don't really know what's going to happen here to Panerai, but clearly it and a number of other brands are losing a shed load of money, or not growing in the way that publicly traded companies need to grow. I was going to start off the show by taking a deep dive into Tudor and asking the question, are Tudor in trouble? Because the report this week for the new main Rolex watch store by Watches Switzerland in London, and it's specifically noted that Watches Switzerland are now no longer opening a Tudor dedicated boutique in London.
Why is that?
And they don't say, it's just a throwaway line. But I wonder whether, in light of the figures from last, when we discussed the number of watches that Tudor are doing, that actually Rolex are going, hold on a second, why are we bothering here? I wonder if Tudor really has reached peak Tudor, because when you look at the coverage it gets, let me get rid of the Panerai off the screen. When you look at the coverage that it gets from the watch media Tudor, in comparison to the actual number of watches they sell, it's extremely disproportionate. Although you could probably say that about every brand except Rolex.
Well,
So I
I
was
think they're
going to
just. I
look
don't know
at
if they
Tudor
have the
rather than Panerai.
diversity.
There we go.
I don't know if
Yeah.
Tudor has the diversity in their catalog where they get, I think everyone sort of gets the Tudor they want and then taps out, People collect Rolex, but if you look at a Datejust or a President versus a Submariner or a Daytona, they're very different watches, but I don't necessarily see someone getting a Black Bay 54 and a Black Bay and a Black Bay Chrono and a Pelagos FXD all in the
True.
same time, in the same way that people will do that with Rolex or other brands. So Rolex Tudor Group might have reached that point where it's like, maybe we don't need that same robust retail space when this is something that everyone admits is a great watch, but they don't necessarily need that same super large bricks and mortar environment that Rolex does for people to oogle at these and then decide what $15,000 watch they're adding to their collection.
Okay, well, let's we've not actually managed to review any watches, so let's do it in the company of Guy, who's now joining us. Good morning, Guy. How are you? Oh, Guy's still plugging himself in. He's there somewhere.
Okay.
Good stuff. Welcome to the show. We can indeed. If you'll turn yourself up just a smidgen, move closer to the microphone just to get the sound balanced, that would be grand. For those of you who are listening to this on the podcast on a Friday, you can also tune into the show being live recorded on a Tuesday morning UK time on the Blog to Watch weekly live channel. Guy, if somebody gave you the opportunity to run Panerai, what would you do with it?
To run, oh my god, that's like the hardest one of like all the different.
It's the gig that's available at the moment.
Oh no, I mean, I wouldn't do that one with the stupid torch in it. I'd tell you that much. I don't know. In my old business, I kind of had a mentor, and he kept saying, you need to find out what works and do more of it, and find out what doesn't work and do less of it. I feel like Panerai have kind of done that.
There's nowhere else to go. They've reached the end.
I think they should probably make some square dive watches.
Oh, wait a minute! And with no preparation whatsoever, Guy has come on the show and said exactly what David said, basically, which is be more Bell and Ross.
I did not say be more square. Oh my goodness! But they could do more square. Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's a hard one. The other thing you do is like, you know how there's quite good businesses that start in recessions, but they kind of have to wait out the recession, and then the recession goes and then they take off. They've just got to wait out the small watch phase in the same way, and like wait for big watches to come back in and be the go-to for big watches.
It's only 10 more years. Maybe
only 10 more years.
Do you know what? Honestly, I could, if you give like any other watch brand, like, I've got plans for Blancpain. I've got plans for Abel. I think Abel is due like a comeback, massively due a comeback. I think the Lomania brand that's in Blancpain is massively due a comeback. There's loads of other brands, but Panerai.
I've stumped him. You arrive into the Dragon's Den. I've got this watch brand. They'll go, no, we're out. We can deal with any brand in Richemont except Panerai.
Honestly, call me about 3:00 this afternoon, and I'll be like, I've got it. I know what to do.
I've got an idea. Well, maybe we should make a bit. How much do you think it would genuinely cost to separate some of these brands from Richemont? Like, I mean, that's how many watch brands, if they were accounted for on a standalone basis, actually make any money? Cartier and the rest lose money? I don't know. Do you think?
I mean, you could do it quite easily. I was listening to your guys' podcast from a few weeks ago, and David had the figures, but you based them on like 2-3 times turnover would be to get it out there, but you then have to work out what your supply was and everything else, which is where it gets really hard.
Yeah. Anyway, that's for dreaming for another day. Just before we start,
not buying Panerai as part of the project that you have going on with all the elements that we are going to add into a watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think By Panerai is obviously top of the list because it already comes with the equation of time, which is super important to our dream
And the Crown
our
Guard
dream watch,
bridge. Yeah,
and the
basic.
crown card.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
already
yeah.
part of the way
It's
there.
already halfway there. Right, before we start, I would just like to go over a couple of comments from YouTube from last week. Can I point out to the dear gentleman DP185-H3X? He must be the same guy that names Omega watches with a name like that. He loves the show, which is great, but he said, the gentleman with the accent, brackets Scottish, that would be me, I assume. I mean, it's a guess, didn't use my name, but I'm assuming it's me he was talking about. It must change the dirty grey earphone pads on his headset. This is the colour they're meant to be. It's not because they're minging or have had them in the mud. They are actually grey. So there you go. I just thought it was worth pointing out. This is not a flaw in the design. They are actually mucky grey colour. So I do, but it's the same colour as. If I lean over this way, Ripley, and you lean over the other way, is my ears same colour as your? If you just lean that way, the same colour as your shirt. Does that work? Yeah, that's about right.
Oh, well, funny you bring up my shirt. This sweatshirt,
Yay!
the Blog to Watch Casio screen.
Oh, that's cool.
It is
That's
a lighter and more measured shade of gray than Rick's
Mhm.
headphones, so it does not look dingy at all. It looks very clean over here.
No one will ever say that your sweatshirt is mucky, ever.
No,
It's-
instead
even
you'll
if you
be
pull it
impressed
through
by
the-
the luminous screen on it.
Mm, mm.
Yes. it
This is
glows
just
in
the
dark.
colour.
Super
This is just the
bright.
Brighter
colour
than
of
the
Panerai.
Scottish.
Sorry, if you turn all your lights off, does that glow?
Yes.
Yes, big time.
Go on then.
Oh,
Go on,
You have
live.
to charge it,
Can
but
I
if,
do
if
this?
I mean, it's night.
I-
It's nighttime where you are, so
oh.
it's dark. Well, it's a little bit of glow there.
you
Can you
see-
get it any
it's
darker?
super bright.
I
Hold
wanna
on.
Go on,
pass-
darker.
if I could pass.
This is
my
how we
blue-
do-
If I could get my blue light torch and like pass it over the screen.
If you shine it from there, guy.
Do you have a...
There we go. This is great radio. This is the best. This is peak podcasting.
Can I
Is
take it? I
loom
was at
shots.
the,
All right, we're charging it
oh,
up.
there we go.
There we go. Oh,
wow,
that's not
great.
bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad. That's
it
what
doesn't-
YouTube is
yeah,
for.
that's pretty good. But it glows. I tried to sleep in these, and I wake up at 3 in the morning. I kid you not. And there's this green glow on the wall next to me. I can't
David
sleep
thinks
in
he's
this sweatshirt,
Superman.
I kid you not. Yeah,
Kryptonite lying next to him.
it's so bright.
That's impressive. Put your
that's
your
really
initials on
cool.
that.
Great.
Yeah,
audio
there
Yeah,
we
and
go.
this isn't a particularly bright light either. This is kind of... Oh, the battery just died. So yeah, this is with the very little light.
If you had a Panerai, you could wind it up and shine it all over again. Right, let's play Hit Miss Maybe. Let's start with... Oh, I'm going to have to do some jiggery-pokery here. In fact, before we do Hit Miss Maybe, actually, no, we can combine Guess the Price of the Seiko with Hit Miss Maybe. Let me find the Blog to Watch site because the tabs have all closed. Panerai has clearly overloaded the system. And we are looking for a review that David did. David, you have this watch in your possession. It is the latest of the MB&F Mad
That's right.
2. Let me share the screen and we can see this horrible excuse for a watch. Sorry, it's lovely. Hands-on MB&F Mad 2 green watch by Eric Giroux. Now, first question, is this... There we go. There's for those on, there we go. We can see David. We can even zoom in on David, actually. I think we can highlight him possibly. No, it's not letting us highlight you. Never mind. Did they call the previous ones MB&F Mad? Were they
No,
not careful to keep the MB&F and the Mad as separate
they were,
things?
but I ignored it.
All
Because
right,
what
okay.
people care about is MB&F. That's what they want.
I see. So this is an executive decision from David on the
Yes.
editorial
I
team.
guess I
which
could
is
have
call
said
us-
MB&Fs,
Fs.
Mad, whatever. But it's actually called, the watches are called Mad Editions.
Right.
And I
Okay.
referred to as such in the article somewhere, but it's an MB&F.
So
way.
tell me about this. Why do I care? Why should I care about this? Because I really don't. But why should I?
Well, I mean, people have for a long time wanted an MB&F, and then when they check the prices and realize that it's 50K and 150K and 250K, they realize that they will never ever be able to afford one. And that was also true for many of the actual friends at MBNF and family and whatever, right? So they just simply couldn't get one of Max and his team's creations. And so that's how Mad 1 came about. If you remember, Mad 1, the original one, was never meant to be commercialized. It was just a gift or something like that. But then
Do you
one of those
believe that?
watches,
Do you really
I
think
do.
that's true?
I don't think MBNF was scaled up at the time for
Right.
something like this. This is a whole different kind of headache. If you have a company that's been tooled and set up to create, such high-end creations as the ALMs and the HMs, the legacy machines and neurological machines, it's a different thing. It's like asking Baltic to create a neurological machine for, it's a completely different ball game. It's if you set up one way, then you can't really do it the other way. So I don't think they were asking for this too much, but it's worked out great.
But then to touch on your point, I also want an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak, but I just go and buy a Tissot PRX instead. I don't go, oh, well, I'll have the really, really, really junior version, the kind of, here's the, we've just put our name on it, but we really just got it made in a factory and goodness knows where.
But that's because you don't have the option. I think you would do that if AP were to offer it to you.
Look at the Moon Swatch. People rushed out and bought the, and that's like a $5,000 or I guess like an $8,000 watch now. They were happy to buy the $300 version of it. So like, I think this is, when it comes from the same brand, it's not so much the imitation as it is kind of the more budget friendly alternative.
But really, if this didn't have MAD 2 or MBNF associations with it, would anybody care about this watch? Would it not just look like a Kickstarter?
Would you say the same thing about the Daytona, though? Like, just be
probably.
Like, oh, it's another black and white chronograph. That's a decent
but
watch,
it would be, yes, but it would be, if the Daytona didn't have Rolex on it, it would still be a watch that has heritage from whenever back in the day. I just don't get it.
You can't always apply heritage to new watches. It's not like, oh, this is new. It sucks. It's not 50 years old.
Listen, I know you lot have all taken the MBNF Kool-Aid, so it's fine. I'm okay to I'm okay to be in. I just don't. I don't understand why anyone would pay. What is it? $2-3 grand for this watch?
Yeah,
and it's expensive for this watch. I mean.
I just think so much of that money is in the name, is in the branding. Whereas if it was nothing to do with them and it was just a bunch of folk that decided to, find the spurious parts and assemble it, it could be 5 or 6. I think the markup on this must surely be one of the highest marked up watches that's out there just now.
But also, you've got quite a lot of R&D time to. I mean, not a huge amount. You've got some R&D time to kind of
make things spin,
change it, make things spin.
Make things spinning. Spinning is hard. Spinning is difficult.
And also, the one was really cool, but I know they made the slimmer one, the F.
Yeah,
but it was really cool. Not great for telling the time, and not great for actually wearing.
No one's ever thought that a key component of a wristwatch should be its ability to tell the time, so that's okay.
But it was also like you would knock it on a door every time you walked through a door.
Yeah.
This is much more wearable.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what worked out here, I agree with you that it's not as bonkers looking or as bespoke or as cool as some of the others. It's a little bit more restrained. It's very Eric Giraud in that sense. I think, to be brutally honest, I've personally not been that big of a fan of his designs because I think it's just, it could be a little bit more exciting. It's true, but it's also cool if you look at the inspiration for the 90s club scenes and whatever else. I thought, looking at the explanation and then looking at the finished product, I think we sort of somehow lost that, that intuition to look into something and realize and ask why is it the way it is, because everything is so intuitive now that you look at it, and if I don't understand it at the first sight, then it's stupid. It's actually a pretty cool inspiration, a cool execution, and execution brings me to the second point on this watch, which is that it's just a good watch. If you look away from all the other nonsense, MBNF, whatever else, what I was really surprised about is that it's so thin. It's really cool that finally it's like that. Of course, it has like this little bubbly case back, but it's a very wearable watch. decently legible, cool looking watch. It's something you could get away with wearing every single day. So the execution actually is quite decent. It's quite expensive for what it is. It's true, given the rise of micro brands and their cool designs that we've been seeing the last few years. But still, I think it's a-okay.
I would be interested to see somebody Photoshop this and remove the see-through ring at the outside to just see how small that movement actually is on the watch.
But it's the same movement in every watch. It's a 25 millimeter basic repair. It's an ETA 2892 equivalent or something like that.
But I think they've done a good trick in the design and making the outside ring effectively see-through, so that it doesn't make you think you're looking at like a cross-eyed watch where the dials are too close to each other in the middle. So it does well from that point of view. Right, let's give it a vote. So on the count of three, if anyone can find, I've still only got my miss, so I do apologise to anyone that I would wish to give a hit to. But in the count of three, is it a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. Miss, hit, maybe. Very quickly, Guy, we've already talked a lot about it. Why is it a hit?
I have to give it a hit because if I didn't own my own brand, I would buy it. I would wear it. And I think that you can't sit here. We do sit here week after week and complain that like there's not enough creativity in the watch world and people aren't doing things different. And then people come out and are creative and do things different, and it looks cool and it's wearable and you can tell the time on it. And I think if you look at like the other, like you call them Kickstarter brands and hype brands, like I think it's way considerably more creative and considerably arguably better looking than some of the, not naming them, but much more hyped brands out there.
Oh, name them. Come on, name them.
No. What I've learned about the watch world, I was at the watch show last week.
Yes.
Everyone's very friendly and very nice, and everyone gets on. And I'm not breaking that because people have been very nice.
That's why I don't get invited to things.
But I think it's, it's okay. It's not for everyone. It could look a bit bozai. I have a feeling all the pictures are set at whatever time that is. So
you don't know, do you? You don't. You've just said this is really legible. You have no idea what time that is.
But, I actually don't know if do the eyes move or do the circles move? I assume the circles.
The rings move.
The rings move. Yeah. I genuinely think it looks cool. It looks different, and I think it's more creative than a lot of other hype brands out there. And I actually think it's quite a good price for a kind of, I don't know what it's limited to, but for a collectible MB&F that you can wear every day, there's lots in that price range that I, in terms of watches at that price range that I'd want to buy, it's probably in the top 5 or 10% of those watches.
Okay, doc. Cool, David.
Yeah, I gave it a maybe. I think it's quite pricey, but of course it's bound to be a hit. They still have to do these raffles because there's so many people who want one of these that they just simply don't make enough of them, and then people go and try and buy one, and then people try and flip them. So what they did with the Med 1S, for example, is that they had to reserve the deposit or something like that. So you had to have quite a bit of money. It was not as easy as registering 10 emails and then you having 10 entries in the raffle, which is just unfair. A lot of flippers did that. So maybe they're still doing that for this one. I think it's bound to be a success. I like the fact that it's a good watch, even if you put the wonky design and the inspiration and whatever else aside. It's a legible, comfortably wearable watch that's high quality inside and out.
Cool. Ripley?
I said maybe. There's a lot I like about it. I like the theme. I kind of like the DJ turntable inspiration. You can kind of see it there, not just the discs, but even the kind of the luminous dots on the front back. I don't know, whatever. The part of the rotor that views through the opening in the side kind of mirrors the dots on like the side of like a Technics 1200 turntable. I think it's kind of cool. It's definitely more wearable than any of the other Mad editions. The only reason I'm saying it's a maybe is it's just a little, I kind of want more bonkers. Like if I wanted a really sensible piece, there's ample options available. No one looks to MB&F or I guess Mad matte additions for a very sensible piece. So I commend them on making a fun, interesting piece that's totally wearable and in a blueprint that you could actually get along with in everyday life. But I don't know, sometimes I just want like the sapphire rocket ship, or like, the weird vision brought to life of Max Baron tells the time. It's like, okay, well, that's going to be a really exciting piece. Probably not all that practical, but very exciting. And this is sort of the opposite end, far less exciting, but far more practical. But I'm with Guy. I don't think this is a bad price at all for what it is, all things considered. This seems to be, there's a bit more engineering, if you will, going on than the Mad 1, which was sort of like just inverted with a display. This, it's quite thin. You still get a fun spinny rotor. Obviously, the discs don't take up much room, but I think it's a decent effort.
I'm curious about the 90s design language of nightclub and turntable, and ask myself the question: which of these two gentlemen is more likely to have been found in a nightclub in the 1990s? They don't really look like
the man who makes
nightclubbers.
like
Apparently they both
sapphire
were.
wrist mounted.
They both were.
Yeah, it's the.
They both grew up in Lausanne, so it's about the Lausanne club scene of the 90s.
All right,
apparently.
okay, right,
I've gotta
okay,
say,
cool.
I was in that scene a little bit in the 90s, and I didn't really get that reference massively until I read it. Like, I was like, oh yeah, a little bit, kind of looks a little bit like vinyl, but if I hadn't read it, I wouldn't have thought it.
Yes, it had to be explained. Right, let's combine two of our favourite things, a hit miss maybe, and a guess the price of the Seiko. So this week we have, as reviewed by Ripley, so you're excluded from this game unless we have managed to do the Men in Black memory wipe from you, the new release of King Seiko Vanak watches. Ripley, tell us a little bit about the what's it thingamajig of King Seiko Vanak. What's this all about?
So the Vanek series was created in the early 70s originally for King Seiko, and it introduced a much more kind of angular silhouette, bright colors. There's multiple different models. It wasn't one specific model, and notably faceted like mineral glass crystals, which are notably absent on this latest version. So King Seiko's dipped back into the archives, revived the Vanek name. As mentioned, they just have standard box shaped sapphire crystals, no crazy faceted crystals that you can see here in the vintage image of them. But they kind of play on the similar cues, very of the era styling, angular profile, kind of bright retro. There's one of the 8L movements in it, so there is that. It is one of the higher end 4 hertz 72-hour power reserves, stainless steel bracelet, and all of the dial colors are inspired by the Tokyo Horizon, which is the birthplace of King Seiko watches. You've got the purple and gold one, which is I want to say is this Twilight, I believe. You got the dark blue one, which is Midnight. You have the silver dial with the gold accents, which is Sunrise. And it being Seiko, you also have some limited editions. Now, the brown and gold one is an alternate version of Sunrise. I guess it's the Golden Sunrise. And then you get an ice blue one, which is a boutique exclusive, not a limited edition, but that's inspired by the clear skies of Tokyo on a bright and sunny day. So 8L movement, stainless steel, King Seiko.
Okay.
And they're all priced the same regardless of color and limited edition or special edition status.
Does Vanak stand for something?
I'm sure it does. It was not conveyed in the press release, and I could not dive further.
Cool. Right. How much is this watch, this Ranger watch, this guy? What are you paying for a Vanak this day in dollars?
Well, my paying is absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Sorry, that's giving away my little. God knows. It's either it says King before Seiko.
Higher or lower than the MB&F?
Probably higher, but shouldn't be. So probably like 3K. I'm gonna go 3K.
3K. David, higher or lower than the MB&F?
Yeah, it's probably roughly 3K, but it should be 1,200, maybe 1,500, and even then I'm squinting.
Ripley, can you remember how much these watches are?
Yeah, I can. It was too much. So
yeah. So the answer is $3,300 for these, which does seem absolutely crazy. Maybe it's just the mood I'm in. But yeah,
How big is it?
It's not the mood you're in, can I say?
It's not the mood I'm in. It's actually just too much. Well,
And it's how is it? I just said this. How is this 14.3 millimeters thick on the time only watch? Just scrolling through the article now. Look at the side shot. It's how if they had 50 years to perfect this design, and they're like, oh, okay, well, here we are now. Let's roll the dice on this. Let's not take another year and make it like maybe something acceptable. I think there should be like an uprise against 14.3 millimeter thick 3-hand automatic watches for $3,000. It doesn't compute at all.
Do you think they had 50 years to perfect it, or they had like an hour in a meeting going, shit, the PRX is doing really well, what have we got in the back catalogue that looks similar?
Both are true. They had 50 years and then they took an hour. So exactly.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It is a weird one for sure as to why they felt
this is 12
to expand
with a similar movement and a module on top, right? So how can this be 12? Actually, it wears a lot thinner than that. And this be 14.3. And I understand, it's case construction and design. It just looks like a bunker on the wrist. It's just too much.
Okay, well,
you can do better.
You can do better. Hit miss maybe on this. 1, 2, 3, go. Miss. Halfway between a miss and a maybe and a maybe. Guy, you seem to have cheered up to this. You've given it a half a maybe.
Half a maybe. Do you know what they should have done? Okay, if I could take over this company now, take the king off, use the movements from like the 5 Series, make it like 500 quid, and then you can compete with the PRX, and then it would like make a lot more sense, and it would be that thick. The King Seiko font on the dial is like, it just takes up too much room. Like that King Seiko automatic 3 days, if it got rid of that, put automatic at the bottom, it would make it look a lot nicer. But this should be their PRX competitor, and at $3,000 it's not their PRX competitor, which doesn't make sense to me. But I think these bringing back these designs is kind of cool. There's something I quite like about them.
The thing is that it was the Fastly Crystal that was the main catch of the original, and they've not done that in this. Yeah. So I'm not sure
then
they've
it would
not
have
left
been 8K
and thicker because it would have been ridged. David, a miss.
It's a gigantic miss, although I do like the Tokyo sunrise, sunset, something. The vibe I get from that dial, especially with that graphic that they put out, that's super tempting. I really genuinely like that. That's very cool. That's the vibe I'm looking for if I'm getting a Seiko. That's very cool. That's a major hit. Everything else is a miss.
Okay. David swinging from one extreme to the other.
Yes.
I do wonder whether it's just that, as you say, it's almost like the inspiration comes the wrong way around from the watch design. They're like, right, okay, we've spent all our time being inspired by Mount Irawati. We're actually in Tokyo. Let's be inspired for that. Right, what have we got? We need to be inspired by Tokyo. What can we see? Right, now what watch?
The sun rises.
What the sun rises, the sun sets, and then there's smog and smoke, so it looks kind of brown and kind of right, we need to find a watch brand we can be inspired to put this on. It just feels all the wrong way around. Ripley?
I said it's a maybe. I'd love to see these in person. Seiko has an amazing ability to make a very, very pretty watch and then make the absolute most crappy renders I've ever seen. And that very well might be the case with these. I'd love to see them in person. I think that purple and gold dial has a lot of potential. But I think Guy's right. Like this fun kind of retro theme would be awesome under $1,000. I don't think this is a watch that really needed to be a King Seiko and have that 8L movement. And you're paying so handsomely for that 8L. Granted, it's a little bit better bracelet, some nicer finishing, what have you. But if this was a standard Seiko, it would be somewhere between like $500 and $1,500, and that's a much more comfortable price point for like a purple and gold watch, which is a kind of a fun type of purchase in general. Where I really struggle with the price point is at $3,300. You're like knocking at the door of like a chronometer certified tutor, and the timekeeping specs for the movement are like I think -5 to +10 or something like that, and that's not terrible, but like at $3,300, and if we're not doing something really special in the other departments as far as the innovation of the movement or the module, the materials or something, you got to have something to kind of boast up there to justify the price. So, and I think, 15-second accuracy spread just isn't it when, you can get a master chronometer certified tutor for like $4,000.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Our final hit miss maybe for today. I will maybe combine very quickly our collaborators game. Is this from Maurice Lacroix? Hands-on debut, the Icon automatic Watto limited edition watch. So this is a collaboration. I'm a big fan of Maurice Lacroix. I have no idea who Watto is and how limited edition he is. So on a scale, gentlemen, of -5 to +5, is the sum of this watch, is a total of this watch greater than the sum of its parts? Does Watto bring anything to the game in terms of Maurice Lacroix? What do we think? I'm saying a -3. I'm saying this. There was no need for this collaboration.
I'm gonna say 4.
I think I'm with Ripley. 4.
4 plus 4.
Positive 4, yeah.
Look at it. How does he not bring something to that? Compare that to the base model. How is he not for something?
Right. Okay.
This is so much cooler than the Urban Tribe. Like the Urban Tribe, like a tribal armband. It was cool, don't get me wrong, but like not something I could really wear. This, having it be more fun and irreverent, it's a totally different vibe. But like, I think this is like a very different, fun offering in a brand that doesn't have the ridiculous history of other brands that they feel like it would be too controversial or contradictory for them to do it. So I think it's a good fit for Maurice Lacroix to do this.
Fair enough. And on the second scale, which is, have you ever heard of the collaborator? You ever heard of Watto?
A 0. I'll be with 0 on that.
I have
David?
not, but I've not. But the reason why I would give this, I would go so far as to say +5, is that the world of watches, I think, is more entertaining, more diverse, and reaches a different demographic thanks to this. I think there's a certain vibe that and a certain demographic who will look at this and say like, this is the first ever watch that is not a G-Shock, that is cool, that I want to wear, that I can associate myself with. And I think for the Swiss companies to do this, I think this is very, very smart in a way. It's quite ballsy at the same time. I think it takes quite a bit of courage to take your Icon and put and do this to it and try and get away with it, which they did. I think it's pretty darn cool. I love it.
Although they did already do that with the Ocean Plastic version of it.
Yeah, they've done different versions before, but I think it's just cool that this is still like a thing for Maurice Lacroix. It's not the first tattoo kind of version or whatever. There was a tribal tattoo thing, something, whatever.
So in terms of overall
and these all relate to
rating?
each other too, which is sort of an interesting thing. So in 2019, the artist, the time engraver, engraved his own, I guess, Icon watch. He did it again on a different one, which was like Maori tribal tattoos in 2021. Maurice Lacroix was inspired by that, and with the artist's permission, created the Urban Tribe watches, both the regular and the skeleton, which were limited editions. And then during this time, I think in 2021, 2022, Watto and the artist Time Engraver had teamed up. Watto made some drawings, Time Engraver engraved them on a watch, and so there was a piece unique of a Watto designed icon out there that these two artists had made. And it was that ultimately led to the genesis of turning it up to 11 with, a crazy dial and making this production version. So it has a much more natural bunch of hot streetwear collaborations and stuff. Maybe we should tap him. There's a much more interesting sort of story in terms of how they all relate. So I think this is definitely in the positive realm of our really convoluted -5 to +5 spectrum.
Okay,
anyone
so
think, though,
overall coolness. Then we're saying it's like a +4 or something. So it's scoring.
yeah. The
It's
only thing,
scoring
does
high.
anyone think they missed a trick? If like, I feel like if Secon did this, like that big bone and the lightning strike would be the hands, and like the hands would be illustrated, and that could be cooler.
I mean, far be it for me to be judgmental, being a reviewer and everything, but this guy does not look like he produced that design. That doesn't
he
look
looks
like
they've got the CEO out and dressed him up.
exactly.
Exactly.
This is like when Banksy is kidded on to be some granny from Bristol.
No, Banksy's Neil Buchanan from Art
this
Well, we did go to the event and we watched
There's a
him
UK
make
reference
some
for
of
you.
this art live. He's definitely the dude. Grace LaCour had an event. We watched him put it to light. He's the nicest guy. Was willing to sit through all of our questions and not the person you would expect to make some crazy wild art, but it's kind of this wild flow of consciousness that is under a very humble dude.
Okay, cool. Well, let's give it a vote then. Is it a hit, a miss, or a maybe? 1, 2, 3, go. I'm going to give it a hit. I'm going to remove my miss thing. So yeah, it's a hit all round. Because actually, I do quite like it. I don't necessarily understand it. I wouldn't necessarily buy it, but it is cool. Guy, would you ask Mr. Watto to design a watch for you?
Probably would actually. Quite like what he does.
Okay.
No, I think it's really cool. I mean, I think they could have just done more with the hands, which I think Second would have just. You could have made that a bit more fun, because if you're going to be a bit picky about that design, the bone and the lightning strike really stand out and are kind of distracting from the overall design. But I just think it's quite a cool thing to do, and like David said, like taking one, their iconic watch and messing with it is brave, and I think we should applaud bravery. I don't like, as a little thing, I don't like logos printed on the glass, but I don't know where else they do it. But I think I have to get over that. But it's just a little bugbear. I hate logos printed on glass.
Fair enough. David, a hit from you?
Yeah, hit for all the aforementioned reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And Ripley, final thoughts on this after you gave it a hit?
Yeah, it's a hit. I mean, I think this was a really fun piece. I've seen the Urban Tribe ones, and it's cool to look at the engravings, but they much more form a collective motif. Each part of each link is like its own little micro canvas, and it's a lot of fun to just kind of pour over it and look at it, and it's like these bizarre cartoon hieroglyphs. It's a cool piece, and the price premium of this versus like a standard three-handed steel icon really is reasonable. You can't, if you don't like it, you don't like fun. So I mean, it's just a cool piece.
$3,300, so around about in keeping with the King Seiko,
It's
and
the same price as the Seiko.
Yeah,
and you would take this over the Seiko every single day.
Yeah, and you'd take over the MB&F, to be fair, would you not?
I think it's close. I don't know. It's close.
Well, I mean, there's only really one question to be asked, which is, and this gets all our games in one place, which is, if it was a case of you had to have this watch, wear it forever, and it was your one watch. I'm looking for the diamond.
This is a much better daily wear watch than the MB&F, but I don't.
Oh, you can service this much more easily. It's a standard like ETA style design in there. Yeah, anyone can keep this running for you. I'm not sure how you fix the fidget spinner rotor when you need rehabilitation on that component.
Okay, but if you could keep the money that you had to spend on the other watches, but the watch you had to wear was this, which is clearly the best value watch ever produced, the Casio A159 with the little diamond.
Well, it's not even fair. There's diamonds on this one.
Exactly.
Right? Scroll down for a picture of the Loom shirt. That's why I sent this link.
Oh, is that the Loom shirt? Oh, there we go. Yes, there's the Loom shirt for discussing. All right, okay. There we are. Yes. Right. Got you. Well, look at how we've joined. It's like a good comedy show. We've joined it all together.
The t-shirt lights up better than the watch does.
exponentially better than
Okay,
the
it
watch.
It really does.
We will throw in the t-shirt, so you can either have any one of the 3 watches from Hit Miss Maybe, and that's it. That's your one watch collection, or you get the t-shirt, the diamond Casio, and the cash. What are you choosing?
Well, I already chose. I already have the T-shirt, the Casio, and the cash. So I'm living it up now. Yeah, it's
Living the
pretty good.
dream. Living the
I'm
dream.
living the dream. I will continue doing that and not buy that Maurice Lacroix. That's my life right now.
Living the dream, not buying Maurice
Yes.
Lacroix. That's our show title
No,
for
I
today.
quite like that. Really. It's cool.
Guy,
I'd go Maurice Lacroix, but I don't really like that Casio. But if it was the other Casio that comes in like bright blue and bright orange, that might be closer. But I like that Maurice Lacroix.
Ripley, you choosing one of our Hit Miss Maybes or the cash and the Casio?
Well, considering I already have the shirt, that removes the most important thing from the equation for me. So I think, I would actually, as much as I love Casio, I would take the I'd take the Watto collaboration. I think it's a decent price. I don't know what else I'd get with the would be $3,200 difference or whatever it is. But yeah, I think it's just a really cool piece. And in the same way that, you're going to see these matte editions out on people's wrists, it'll be just like the other one. There'll be that period where it's kind of novel, but then you'll see them out and around. You see someone with a Watto one, that's cool. You're going to have a cool conversation with them and, ask them why they bought it and all of that. So, yeah, I'll take the Watto and happily stay in my shirt that I'm
Your
wearing.
t-shirt.
Right
Got a t-shirt. Well, as I say, on that bombshell.
Is there a meaning on the time? Like the 8:07:50? Has that got some kind of hidden meaning?
Oh, there's a question for you. Who decided that the t-shirt was going to be 8:07:50? 2007, is that not when a Blog to Watch started? No, that was 20.
No, it's 2007. That's why it says 2007 on it.
What's the 50?
Aye.
The 50 is just, it looks good.
It just looks good. Okay, cool. Right. Well, as I say, on that bombshell, that's our main show for this week. If you want a little bit of extra, you can go to the Blog to Watch Weekly Live channel where we will continue our chat, most probably for a few more minutes. But other than that, it's a goodbye from me and goodbye from all of them. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Good-o. Thank you, gentlemen. I do like that t-shirt. It does look like it would wake you up in the middle of the night, I have to say.
It is super bright.
It does look quite scary. Good stuff. So what's happening?
So much more even than the little backlight above it.
Yeah, that's a cheap little Casio. But even if you take a proper G-Shock with any of the negative or positive displays, that have like the even backlight, of course it's brighter. This is brighter than basically any of the watches and glows much longer too. Again, if you charge it at like 9 p.m, it glows at like 5 in the morning.
But it's only right twice a day.
Yeah,
once a day.
But twice a
day.
Whereas
it's
most watches are inaccurate all the time.
Good. How was British Watchmakers Day, Guy?
It was good. Someone came up and they said, I've heard you on the Blog to Watch podcast. It sounds chaotic. And I was like, yeah.
Sounds about right. I'm glad we're known for chaos. That sounds reasonable.
No, it was good. I got a last minute cancellation. I begged for a stand. I tried to go last year with prototypes, and you're not allowed to go with prototypes. You have to go with real watches.
Okay.
So then they had real watches. Then they let me in the organisation. And then I said, oh, cool, how do I book my stand? And they're like, no, they're all full.
All right, okay.
But I got a last minute cancellation from Accurus.
That Bremen.
Accurus cancelled.
Accurus cancelled.
But I met some very nice people from the watch world. I met the guys from Elliott Brown, who are very nice. Met some watchmakers from Roger Smith, who said to me, we do the same thing. We make watches. It's like,
no, we don't do the same thing.
We really don't do the same thing, do we? Had a nice chat with Mike France, who was lovely.
Cool.
And lots of customers. It was a good day. And
good.
People queuing from I got there at 8, and people have been queuing from 6. and it was I don't know if this is criticism, but it was a little bit the Gimlet show for a bit.
Yeah.
But that wore off.
Uh-huh.
Just to take off my 7 Friday hat, I'm put on my marketing hat for a second here, Guy. If the sentiment between you and Roger Smith is, look, we both make watches, we're both British, could you just take some of his trash, just do anything with it, and then call it a collab? Like the D-Trash Roger Smith collab would be pretty epic, even if it was just made with like metal shavings.
I feel like I don't want to disparage my watches because I love my watches. I feel his trash is probably worth more.
Well, some of it's gold. They do a lot with gold. That very well might be the case. But I mean, there's definitely other stuff there that that
they have
that could be a very interesting
list. They've got a 5-year closed wait. Everyone talks about Burneron quite a lot with a closed waiting list. The price of the watches. I mean, their watches are 15 times the price of a Burneron, and they have a closed waiting list of 5 years, and have quite a lot of repeat purchase.
Who's that?
Is Roger Smith. I think, and there's 17 people on the Isle of Man, which you guys don't know, but is not a very highly desirable place to live.
No speed limits.
Yeah, true.
That's the only redeeming feature.
Yeah, but it's crazy. I mean, hats off to them. I think it's incredible what they do. That's similar to what we do.
You know is it the Cartier that's got the diamonds that kind of roam around inside the watch? Is that Cartier? That's just D-Trash. Is it Chopard? Oh, that's a Chopard. It's the one that Julia Roberts wears. The D-Trash and just some, spurs off the end of turns from rods just rattling around the case. That'll be fine.
Maybe. I don't think D-Trash is about kind of diamonds and gold. Although we do have a DLC gold coming soon, which actually looks awesome.
All right, cool.
But it's DLC gold.
Cool. Well, there we go. Well, on that announcement, for those that are still listening on YouTube, we shall leave you for our show for this week. So thank you for joining in. Speak to you all again soon. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening. Bye.
And we are out.